who had been in the line since 6:45, and some of them went back disappointed because they did not have the hard copy of the voter slip. They had a digitized version of the voter slip. They had an epic card, and their name was on the electoral roll, yet they were sent back saying that if you can't get a hard copy of the voter slip, you will not be allowed to vote. Now that Election Commission of India has intervened, looks like things are going off smoothly. It's very some colorful pictures also coming in. You see these young girls all decked up, all dressed up. Looks like there is some college function that they have to go for after this, but they're ensuring that they vote. If you give me a minute, I'll try and understand. ये कौन लोग हैं मैम? मैम ये कौन लोग हैं? इतना सच सवर कर रहे हैं, वोट देने आए हैं?
नहीं,
ये लोग प्रोग्राम देंगे, वोटर अवेयरनेस के लिए आए। So this is a voter awareness program that these girls are part of. Overall, this booth very well decked up. There are Madhubani paintings, there are selfie booths, there are pink balloons to welcome voters. But what voters are essentially asking for is that allow us the convenience to vote. Do not harass us because some document that you feel is missing, which is not even there on the Election Commission's essential document list.
Well, this whole thing started with this whole business of documents and what documents are acceptable, not acceptable with the SIR, went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Payal, whereabouts are you? Where is Nitish Kumar? Of course, this is, he's been in power, like I said, almost uninterrupted other than a brief interim where Jitan Ram Manjhi was in power. For 20 years, he's been in power. And there are very few chief ministers, very few parallels in the history of India of chief ministers who've been in office for 20 years. Jyoti Basu is the only one I can think of. Naveen Patnaik is the other one. But even Naveen Patnaik lost last year's elections, right? So where is Nitish Kumar right now? And is this a test, a final test of his legacy, his record, his rule over the last 20 years?
Well, to begin with, Nitish Kumar is currently at his Patna residence. In a short while from now, he will head to Bakhtiarpur, where I am going to be trailing him. Mind you, everybody's spoken about his age and his constraints, but he's going to travel by road, which is a 45 minutes drive. And he will go to Bakhtiarpur, after which he has a day full of activities in terms of campaigning, and then he returns back to Patna as well. As far as Nitish Kumar is concerned, if you ask me, Zaka, from whatever I've traveled around, the story of the Bihar election 2025 will be Nitish Kumar as well. Whoever has made fun of him will have to eat humble pie, given the fact that Nitish Kumar has conducted himself over the last 20 years just the way he would have liked. He's been the beacon as far as women empowerment is really concerned, and he has been somebody who's delivered the goods as far as Bihar is really concerned. To look at the Bihar from the 90s to now, Nitish Kumar has come a long way. Yes, of course, he's had a lot of political ups and downs. He's had a lot of political jumping ship as well, but he's a stable ship, is what the BJP would like to certainly believe. But if you ask me, it's going to be the overarching figure as far as that is concerned. And since we are talking about women, I have these lovely women who are here, part of the voter awareness drive. But mind you, each one of them is also a voter. आप बताइए, आपका वोट है यहाँ पे बिहार में?
हाँ, बिहार में मेरा वोट है।
बिहार के जो वोटर्स हैं, उनके लिए कितना जरूरी है ये वोट? क्या किस इश्यूज पे वो वोट करना चाहेंगे?
देखिए, बिहार का एक भी वोट बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है और सभी वोटर्स को अपना एक वोट जरूर देना चाहिए।
आपका वोट किसके लिए है? जॉब्स के लिए है, सिक्योरिटी के लिए, किसके लिए है आपका?
एजुकेशन के लिए।
एजुकेशन का आपको लगता है कि इम्प्रूवमेंट की और जरूरत है? ये लोगों को नौकरी नहीं मिलती, लोग बाहर चले जाते हैं, वो कितना बड़ा कंसर्न है आपके परिवार के लिए, आपके लिए, आप जैसे लोगों के लिए?
हम लोग के लिए तो बहुत ज़रूरी है और कुछ अच्छे लोगों की ज़रूरत है। अभी नए लोगों को हम लोग वोट करें और हम लोग बाहर जॉब के लिए ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है।
आप मानते हैं कि नए लोगों को पॉलिटिक्स में आके पॉलिटिक्स को भी एक प्रोफेशन बनाना चाहिए?
बिल्कुल। पॉलिटिक्स जैसे अभी के लोग कर रहे हैं, एक्चुअली ये सेल्फ सर्विस के जगह पे अगर हम लोग पब्लिक सर्विस करते हैं तो ऑटोमेटिकली ये जॉब में टर्न आउट हो सकती है। और यहाँ पे नए लोगों को, एजुकेटेड लोगों को पॉलिटिक्स में जरूर आना चाहिए। उनके आने से यहाँ पे काफी चेंजेस आएंगी, चेंजेस के साथ हमको ग्रोथ देखने को मिलेगी। तो नए लोगों को पॉलिटिक्स एज ए जॉब जरूर ट्राई करना चाहिए।
आप बताइए, ये पूरा इनिशिएटिव चलाया जा रहा है इलेक्शन कमीशन के द्वारा, आप लोग वेलकम करें जो लोग वोट करने आ रहे हैं, ये कितना बड़ा इनिशिएटिव है?
ये हम लोग के लिए बहुत ही प्राउड वाली बात है और हम लोग बहुत खुश है कि हम लोग को ये अवसर मिला है कि हम लोग उनके स्वागत के लिए आए हैं। और
लेट्स ट्राई एंड गेट इन अ कपल ऑफ वॉइसेस ऑफ कपल ऑफ वोटर्स एज वेल। आर यू अ फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर? नो। हाउ इम्पोर्टेंट इज इट टू कम आउट एंड वोट फॉर पीपल फ्रॉम बिहार?
It is very important, and we are part of the sweep campaign as well from the administration, and we encourage everyone to come out and vote today.
Well, of course, Zaka, you've heard the voices on ground. These girls are there from the morning, early parts of the morning, dressed beautifully well to welcome the voters. But at the same time, they will, each one of them, turn by turn, will go out and cast their vote. And you heard from them what it really means to the average Bihari to come out and really vote. But like I said, for me, the story in Bihar 2025 will be Nitish Kumar.
You know, it's fascinating for me. You just speak to young people there, and they're all talking about this. Jobs is an issue, employment opportunities, the fact that we have to migrate out of the state. You know, maybe the politicians of the day are not doing a good job of speaking to those concerns. Tejashwi is trying, PK is trying, maybe they won't be as successful. But to say those issues don't matter or those issues are not resonant for the young people of Bihar, I don't buy that. So let me ask, I think Rashid is there. Rashid, so everybody who talks about the PK factor, or even Tejashwi wants to pitch himself as this youth leader, right? Yuva Neta. And these are resonant concerns. Young people are talking about jobs, whether it is in Darbhanga, whether it is in New York. Why is it that that's not translating in terms of, you know, voter preferences, or in terms of, you know, you listen to those young people who just spoke to Payal, right? They're all saying there needs to be education, there needs to be jobs. We don't want to go out of our state just to earn a livelihood. These are things that people are talking about, but somehow politicians are not able to cash in on it.
Absolutely. And Zaka, that indicates the election is far from settled in that sense. If there has been a government and a chief minister for 20 years, and still people are talking about, you know, lack of job opportunities, lack of education, lack of, local employment, and they have to migrate elsewhere. All these things are potent issues, and that makes the election very important and very crucial also. To say that what happened, 20 years ago, Jungle Raj, etc., I think that's just a kind of, building a narrative that doesn't exist, because after that, Tejashwi Yadav was there with Nitish Kumar in government. So that chapter, I think, of Jungle Raj is over. But the more important thing, Zaka, today is about, the fairness of votes being cast. I think that's a very important issue in view of what leader of opposition has said yesterday. The election commission must ensure free and fair election, particularly after 5 p.m. What happened in Haryana? What the allegation is, it needs to be probed by former election commissioners, and independent probe is very much required, because remember, the process is very important. Today is a day where a process is taking place. So I think we must talk about the fairness of voting.
I'll just
and
come to
how
that
it
one
is
second.
conducted.
Rashid, I'll take you up on that point. But Misa Bharti, Lalu Prasad's daughter, is speaking. Let's listen in. I think this is just before casting her vote. Tejashwi is going to cast his vote. I suspect he will speak once he casts his vote. But Rahul, you wanted to make a point.
Well, first of all, of course, Tejashwi is on the ballot today. His constituency goes to polls. In fact, it's very interesting because all the top deputy chief ministers, 15 ministers of the NDA, all on the ballot today. But, let's listen to Rabri Devi.
मेरा अनुरोध है, बरतता है, सबको मैं धन्यवाद देती हूँ, शुभकामना देती हूँ कि सब कोई अपना अपना वोट डाले।
इस बार बदलाव होगा मैम?
बदलाव होगा, जनता बदलाव करेगी।
Yeah.
Badlav hoga, janta badlav karegi. That's the hope, of course. Remains to be seen. But I just want to bring this youth factor into perspective with some hard data. And I've been sort of talking about these points. Look, between 18 to 29, you've got this youth vote. That's 1 in every 4. There's 25% of the electorate. It's not as if they're agnostic. They come out and they vote. I don't believe that they also sort of rise above their caste. I think they also are very conservative in that sense, and they do elect their caste, but they have these overarching concerns. But the interesting aspect is that their vote was absolutely split down the middle. 37% went to the MGB, 36% went to the NDA. If you go further down into BJP and RJD, 42.6 went for the BJP, RJD had 39%. So it's not
what
as
what
if...
does that say to you?
So it tells me that... Yes, exactly. So it's
But what about the concern of jobs and lack of employment? I mean, does that tell you, that even if they don't have those concerns, they trust the BJP to deliver on those concerns more than they trust
look,
their
the
own
numbers
party?
tell
Is that
me,
what it says?
the split in the numbers tell me that there's also other factors at play. So there's loyalty, number one. And, there's a very interesting piece today in the Times of India by a political analyst who talks about how the youth actually are even skipping Patna University. And where do they go? They go to Khan Sir and all these tuition centers because they are supposed to be the avenues. But even there, there is caste. So there are Kushwaha block controlled sort of, tuition centers, and there are other caste-based tuition centers. So even that is, so look, caste is a reality. Fundamentally, I just want to tell you that, look, though Nitish has not done wonders, remember 9.4 million of these youth earn less than 6,000 per month, which is a very big number, and that's why a lot of them leave the state. But Nitish years have been politically stable. And the state of Bihar has been growing as number 2 in terms of all states, in terms of state GSDP over the last 10 years.
But that's from a very
big
low
number.
base. I mean,
it might be so. But still, number 2, showing improvement. All I'm trying to suggest is that people have, as Nistula was just saying, memories, and these are sort of resonant memories that, look, their parents will talk about these things. There's young youth growing up in 2000s. They would have heard things.
All right, Tejashwi Yadav, I think, has just
at the polling booth
reached
there.
the polling
It's a
booth.
big day for him, of course. Go ahead.
Zaka,
yes,
I think you asked a very critical question as to why is the youth of Bihar almost committing harakiri when they know that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So there are 3 things to my mind that are happening, and let Nistula and Pallavi weigh in. Number 1, the alternatives are even murkier. And the alternatives have been mired in corruption, and it is the citadel of everything that is wrong with the Indian political system. Number 2, for whatever you might say, whether it's just marketing, pure play, this whole double engine nonsense is working. Because people say, अगर केंद्र में सरकार है और प्रांत में सरकार है, तो शायद ये सरकार कुछ करेगी. We won't be left in the lurch. The third is the problem in Bihar is the divorce between reality and elections. They are not voting on issues. They continue to vote on lines of caste, to my mind. So if there was an issue, let's imagine the issue was unemployment. Why would you not throw Nitish Kumar out after 20 years? When unemployment has been staggeringly high, when jobs have been scarce, when we see no zeal for entrepreneurship. So I'm not saying this is, cast in stone, but I'm just raising a question. If jobs and employment was a trigger, why would you not change the chief minister? The only answer is because the options are even worse.
Shreyas, just 1 second. I think Misa Bharti was just speaking. Let's try and listen to what she's saying. Can we play that out again? All right, this is just before the Lalu family goes in to cast their vote at that booth where Arunima is. Yeah, you wanted to weigh in on this. Yeah.
Voter is divorced from his real life and therefore voting on those concerns. It's that we cannot see what his concerns and his everyday life is sitting from here. The point is that there is a generational trauma with regard to so-called Jungle Raj. It is not just with regard to corruption in high places. That really does not affect the person on the ground. This is a fact that if you have a very domineering community given power, you will find that all the SHOs in the local police station is from that community. There is a problem with registering FIRs coming from EBC communities or Dalits. They feel more oppressed. There are other things. The contracts, rent seeking is through one community. So that generational trauma exists, and that is what drives a lot of the voting. So therefore, this Jungle Raj is a potent
issue.
Especially among the Mahila, I heard a lot of them talking about that. And even the young people. Because
women in EBCs who are actually the...
All right, let's listen in to Tejashwi Yadav. I think he's just going to cast his vote. I suspect he may... I suspect he might actually cast the vote and then come out and speak to reporters.
So I just wanted to complete. So women and EBCs especially are the bedrock of support for the NDA for these very reasons, because there is a kind of a social structure that exists in everyday life, and they want to ensure their security and some amount of economic activity, etc. A government that listens to them and represents.
As Suhail was saying, look at the alternative. What is the alternative promising? I'm promising you more government jobs.
And the challenge the challenge for Tejashwi has been to overcome, but just like for Akhilesh has been in UP, to overcome.
Beyond MY.
There are a large number of migrant workers and employees who actually came for Chhat, and they're staying back to vote. they are the ones who want jobs. They are saying we don't want to go out.
And that's
many
why
of those
the
young
PK
people
experiment is not just out of the box, but very important actually.
Yeah,
for
he's
the
talking about
future
those
of Bihar.
crowded trains.
Exactly.
Is this the
He's
kind of
talking
picture
about
you want?
aspirational
Let's
Bihar.
ask-
And unfortunately,
Let's ask Nisula one thing, just for my clarity. If you were to list the reasons why the youth of Bihar will vote in favor or against a political party, what do you think the top three would be? They would revolve around law and order, jungle raj, or would it concern the economy or a bit of both?
Yes, in that sense, you have to see that caste is seen by most people in this country not just as a marker of identity. It is also your vehicle for getting certain resources and state patronage and other kinds of patronage. So therefore, number one will always be caste. Especially in a state like Bihar with its very, very firm social boundaries.
No, but I think Suhail's got a point. If joblessness and youth unemployment is an issue, and a lot of people anecdotally are talking about it, the reason why they are not voting the incumbent out is that they believe the options on the other side are worse.
Certainly they are worse.
That is
exactly what I said, that there is a
incumbent.
generational trauma that needs to be addressed.
Who's going to be able to deliver more? They actually, that's where the Modi factor
when I
comes
spoke to women, especially the Jivika beneficiaries, etc., and I said that, look, you're getting this money, but tomorrow if NDA comes to power and the BJP decides that, okay, Nitish needs to go and we need to be chief minister, BJP chief minister. So they said, nahi, theek hai, koi baat nahi, Modi ji honge. I said, are you sure? हाँ हाँ वो करेंगे. And then they said, कुछ भी हो जाए लालटेन ये नहीं करेगा ना.
See, women,
that
for
was the
example,
question they asked me back.
And this is important because I've been speaking to a lot of analysts and psephologists, and what are they saying? They're saying that the 30-year-old plus woman voter has benefited for 20 years under Nitish Kumar. She got her cycle to go to school. Beyond that, when she got through intermediate and she got through class 12, etc., she got money in her pocket. When she went to college, she got scholarships.
And reservations.
Then she got, of course, reservations. And then she got scholarships. When she got married, she got something from the state to ensure that, I mean, I know there is somebody working for me at my home and daughter is going to get married, comes from Mithilanchal. They are looking at the state right now to pay for the expenses. So it's that elemental. And if someone is delivered over a period of 20 years, they're going to say, well, these people are tried and tested. We can't be sure.
All right. Tejashwi has just cast his vote, so let's listen into what he has to going on there, but Tejashwi Yadav just cast his vote. Let's listen into what he has to say.
अच्छी शिक्षा चिकित्सा हो पढ़ाई दवाई कमाई यही हम सब लोगों से अपील करना चाहते हैं। उम्मीद क्या है सर? उम्मीद हम लोग जीतेंगे सब लोग जीतेंगे बिहार जीतेगा। 18 तारीख को बदलेंगे सरकार 14 को नई सरकार मिलने वाली है। प्रवक्ताओं से पूछो पीछे रखिए ना माइक पीछे रखिए चोट लगेगा मैच से चोट लगेगा मैच थोड़ा पीछे रखिए बात हो गई बात हाँ पर ये चलिए हो गया चलिए
All right, Tejashwi Yadav there saying it's about a vote for education, a vote for youth, a vote for jobs, etc. Rashid, the problem for Tejashwi Yadav is, whether you like it or not, he's not able to shake off this whole legacy of Jungle Raj, which the BJP, even today, I mean, the Prime Minister in every campaign of his has been saying young people listen to your elders about the stories of what happened during those fateful days in the 90s about Jungle Raj. Somehow Tejashwi is just not able to shake off that legacy.
Not really, Zaka. I beg to disagree. If you look at the outcome of last elections in Bihar, Tejashwi Yadav, that Gathbandhan physically got more votes than NDA. So, they are getting votes. I'm not saying the issue is not there. It is for the BJP and NDA to talk about it. But the fact of the matter is he's getting, and this time they have, wider Mahagathbandhan is there. There is a lot of diversity is there. There's a lot of, intra-alliance kind of changes have taken place. All these things are there. Just to look at from the prism of what was happening in 2005 or earlier is, I think, little unfair, because this is a new election and this is a very fierce contest. Today is the day of voting, so we cannot speculate what's going to happen. But Mahagathbandhan was and is very, I would say, very strong. So therefore, to say that, one issue is going to dominate all others is, I think, inaccurate and unfair.
No, so on that point, Mr. Kidwai, just let me ask you this, and please elaborate. You said that, look, the MGB got cumulatively more votes. That, of course, happened because of also the nature of the structuring of the coalitions themselves. But I want to ask you, has Mr. Tejashwi Yadav been able to grow his party beyond the MY, that is the Muslim Yadav base? Has he been able? I know that he's given fewer seats, for example, this time, tickets to the Yadav, but has that actually happened on the ground?
That is at least a very sort of effort has been made. If you look at the kind of ticket distribution, if you look at even the Congress profile, the Congress used to be a largely upper caste party in Bihar. This time it is actually, they have changed, they have transformed the number of, not only the state PCC chief, the number of seats that have been given to various social groups, particularly economically backward classes, etc., is a very different story. And you look at IP, you look at VIP, there are a lot of constituents are there in Mahagathbandhan. So I'm saying it is being repackaged. And therefore, to assess it from the past, from a MY prism, is wrong, inaccurate, and I think outcome will reflect that.
No, so let me just see if we can show it on the magic wall. This whole issue of, migrant labor or migrant vote, migrant youth going away. Let's see if we've got that figure updated. The last official figure that we have as far as migrant labor out of Bihar is from the 2011 census. This is government data. I'm not talking about non-government data. At that time, there were about 75 lakh youths from Bihar who had left the state in search of employment, in search of livelihood to other parts of India. That translates to about 100 or a little less than 100 seats. Out of those 100 seats in the last election, which is a very tight election, where the RJD ended up as the #1 party, even in that election, it's the NDA which had a 2% vote share lead, and even in terms of seats, they had close to 60, the MGB had 40. So it's almost like a 2:3 kind of a ratio, where the NDA was the one that succeeded in those seats. And you can look at those seats. Many of those seats are going to polls today. Many of them are in Mithilanchal, in the central part of the state. So you have places like Darbhanga, Samastipur, Vaishali, even up to the Champaran districts up in the north. These are the places, the districts from where the maximum amount of migration happens outside of Bihar. They go outside of Bihar in search of employment, in search of livelihood. And there, again, it's the BJP. If you break down the NDA, out of the 60 seats, 57 seats that the NDA got, 37 of those went to the BJP. Only 13 went to the JDU. So on that issue, there is a problem. You can't wish away that problem. There is a problem that young people feel that they are not getting the opportunities in their state, therefore they have to migrate, and maybe they're not treated as well outside the state. But look at the breakup even between the BJP and the JDU. The BJP had 3 times the number of seats that the JDU had, specifically in these. Of course.
Candidates, selectively against only JDU. So there was a message being sent there. And that
but I'm saying that is statewide. Yeah. But in these specific seats, in these specific 97 seats, the fact, and I'm pretty sure if I broke down the MGB's, breakup, the RJD would have had comparable to, or a little less than the BJP, but certainly much higher than the JDU. So the issue is there. The question is, why is that issue not translating in terms of voter preference? Is it because they're going back to, caste? and I'm voting for
Well,
a
I think
Yadav,
it's a
I'm voting
question
for a
of
Kushwaha.
alternatives.
It's the
It's also a
alternatives,
question of alternatives.
and the caste factor. Look, the caste factor is the underlying grid that sort of holds up the entire sort of superstructure of electoral preferences. Let me put it that way. That's the first one. I think that people are looking at even now in Bihar. It's elemental.
But
and after
Rahul,
that, you
if
sort
that
of
is the
look at other
case,
things.
if
Yes.
that is the case, then a person like PK doesn't stand a chance.
That's why.
Because
That's
he's,
why
he's
it's
saying
only
he's a caste
that's
agnostic
exactly why.
party.
So unless there is massive anti-incumbency, you see, or there has been a massive movement that has been building, and you know, you saw that in the 70s.
Yeah.
Where and how did Lalu and everyone else
student
come up?
movement and all
It
that, yeah.
was because there was at that time, even within the caste sort of structures and the binaries that Nistula is talking about, Pallavi is referred to, there was frustration. There was a sense of we are not getting, the other castes were not getting their due. So there was this sort of move towards propping up leaders that could give them voice.
Which is, I think, why Rahul Gandhi is
Lalu
trying to
Yadav,
do
I
that.
think
He's
yes.
talking about
Lalu Yadav is speaking.
Yeah, let's listen into
Very
Lalu
rare
Yadav.
interaction.
Others gone. I don't think he's spoken to the press. But let's also listen into Chirag Paswan. I believe he's given a soundbite even as he's cast his vote today.
वुमेन ने 22 बार वोटिंग किया है सर।
किसके हक में वोटिंग किया ये भी बता दें। हाउ डज ही नो कि उन्होंने किसके हक में वोटिंग किया है, एक चीज। सेकेंडली, इज इट ह्यूमनली पॉसिबल, मतलब फिजिकली क्या ये संभव है कि आप 22 जगह पे जाके आप अपने मताधिकार का इस्तेमाल करें। मुझे ही शहर बननी जाना है, उसके लिए अभी अगले और 3 घंटे मुझे लगेंगे वहां पहुंचने के लिए, और उसके बाद और अगर जगह जाने का कोई सोचे। बट बहरहाल अगर ये जानकारियां भी आपके सामने आई हैं तो आप क्यों नहीं आप कोर्ट का आप रास्ता अपनाते हैं। सरकार की ये जिम्मेदारी नहीं है ना। आपने शिकायत की कि भाई इस तरीके से हो रहा है, आपकी शिकायत के ऊपर चुनाव आयोग ने एसआईआर की प्रक्रिया का इस्तेमाल किया। अब उस प्रक्रिया के ऊपर भी अब आपको दिक्कत है। जितनी बार आप ऐसी रिपोर्टिंग को सामने लेकर आते हैं, आप तो और ज्यादा हम लोग को एनकरेज कर रहे हैं ना चुनाव आयोग को कि भैया आप जाइए और एसआईआर पूरे देश भर में आप लागू करने का काम कीजिए। ऐसे में मुझे लगता है कि अगर इनके पास इतना ही इनको विश्वास है अपनी जानकारी के ऊपर, तो इनको कोर्ट का रास्ता अपनाना चाहिए, न्यायालय में जरूर जाना चाहिए।
Chirag Paswan, I mean, referring to Rahul Gandhi's press conference yesterday. By the way, this Brazilian model that Rahul Gandhi referred to in his press conference, one of the papers has done a nice story. The 22 times, the so-called 22 times that this lady apparently cast her vote, they've gone and spoken to at least 4 of those women who've casted their vote. The photograph on the on the epic card, on the photo identity card, is that of this Brazilian woman. It's on different names, but those women have gone and voted. It's just that the photograph happens to be of somebody else, and she's also apparently spoken to the media and said, you know, I don't know who used my photograph and why they used my photograph, but I've never voted in an Indian election. So it's possible that the photograph was wrong, because
Could
otherwise
be a clerical error.
Yeah,
but
the people who voted are genuine. I mean,
Another
people went and
newspaper has
voted.
done an investigation going to those homes in Haryana
Exactly,
where
exactly.
there were
That's
multiple
expressed.
voters, and
Yeah.
they said actually there was a huge plot of land where there are actually many people who live there, many families.
Yeah.
In fact, all of them live there, and they've all exercised their vote individually.
But
so,
you know the thing, Rahul, is that many areas which I went through the voter Adhikar Yatra route, they actually, many of them gave the credit to Rahul Gandhi कि चलो SIR आपके चलते हुआ होगा, and because of which we are going to cast our votes. But they're not necessarily going to cast the vote for the Mahagathbandhan. It's a talking point. You know, you talk about vote chori, people love to talk, they're talking about it. But it's not an election issue.
But tell me this, you know, in August and in September, when this Adhikar Yatra was happening, there was so much noise around this issue. This was the issue that Rahul Gandhi and Tejashwi Yadav picked up and said, this is the issue that Bihar is going to vote out Nitish Kumar. But suddenly, when after the dates got announced and the campaigning began in right earnest, They've dropped that issue like a hot potato.
Well, the Congress hasn't completely. Beach में they come
But
back.
Tejashwi Yadav is not talking about it.
Tejashwi dropped it before the last rally of that voter
So
adhikar
manifesto में नहीं है mention. The first joint rallies of the two of them, Tejashwi never even spoke about the vote
Tejashwi
chori.
and RJD dropped it before the last rally.
Why? I mean,
Because
is it
his father told him that it is not your job to make Rahul Gandhi a big leader in Bihar. You have to become the leader in Bihar, and you have to make sure that the Congress, for all the help that we have given them, make sure that they announce you as the chief ministerial candidate.
He called up
which was a
Sonia Gandhi.
flex.
This is, I can tell you,
So therefore,
Rahul and his people, which is like Krishna Alavaru in the midst of all this. Remember, he was replaced by Avinash Pandey to negotiate because they felt that Rahul would never ever announce Tejashwi. And that's when the phone call went to Sonia Gandhi. That is where Sonia stepped in,
So
because
that was
Sonia
a
and Lalu
flex.
are very, very close to each other. He's always been her biggest supporter.
No, but everybody knows that if the Mahagathbandhan wins, Tejashwi will be chief minister. I mean,
Well,
I
he
don't think
hasn't
there's
announced
any
that.
I don't think there's any two ways about it. I mean, the manifesto
but
has his name. It's called Tejashwi Patra.
Yeah.
The press conference was announced
that
by
was
him.
much later, Zaka.
Yeah, but my
press conference was the first press
point is,
conference.
it's
No,
not
the
like Rahul Gandhi is going to become chief minister of
No,
Bihar.
but
I mean, come on.
Jaka, see, what Rahul Gandhi is trying to do was trying to balance. He was the first architect of the Akla Choloro narrative. He never wanted a coalition politics. 2004 onwards, I remember he would tell us that, Congress identity will get submerged if we go into these alliances. Which is very ironical because his mother talked about UPA.
No, but he's also the architect of the so-called India alliance.
so-
I mean, he's the guy who came up with the phrase
so
apparently.
he's caught in that bind. कि
Look,
Congress
there are
का
two
भी
things.
अस्तित्व
One
है.
can't disagree with Rahul Gandhi for raising an issue which is elemental to vote adhikar, right? I mean, you don't want bloated voter lists fused with people who are not there, don't live, don't exist, are not citizens of this country. So from that point of view, it's a great thing. But then why oppose the SIR? You contradict yourself the moment you say that then I have a problem with the SIR. I mean, the SIR is the only way.
So they are giving him credit for the SIR.
Exactly.
They think, चलो इसके चलते हमारा voter list में नाम आ गया.
But his own party,
Yeah.
his own allies don't want the SIR. They're running to the Supreme Court to put a stay on the SIR.
Because none of them have party workers who
I
will
just
make
feel
sure
that this is an attempt, and please bear me out on this, I think this is an attempt to G up the Gen Z voter, to make them sort of conscious that there is an election happening. Come out and vote, folks.
Everybody's talking about this Gen Z voter. I mean, Zoran Mamdani in New York, and we saw what happened in Nepal. I mean, Suhail, look, first of all, I don't think this Gen Z voter is lazy and stupid and they just want to sit on, all the money that their parents have earned and don't want to work a day in their life and so on. I think that's a very disparaging way of speaking to them. They have concerns. Those concerns need to be addressed. But I'm not sure that they are, going to just take their axes and come out onto the streets and protest and bring revolution tomorrow, right? I mean, that's not what they're going to do.
Also, by the time this program ends, you might have another gen taking birth, Gen Z, Gen this, Gen now, Gen Alpha. So, I really don't care. There are only two kinds of people, Gen I and Gen DI. The generation that is interested in bringing about change through electoral politics and the generation that is disinterested. And that would include people from 18 to 80. I think we make too much of all of this, Gen Z, these people think like that. They don't have the time to think. They are worried about their immediate present. They're not even thinking about the future. I think what they are concerned about, and all of us have referred to it, is which is the better evil.
Yeah.
And the better evil in this case is the devil you've been with. Remember, not too long back, Nitish Kumar was in bed with Tejashwi Yadav.
Correct.
But then there's that old Bernard Shaw saying, never go to bed with an elephant. You never know when it rolls over and the pleasure turns into pain. And he experienced that pain. Nitish saw, what a riotous bunch these people are. So I feel sad, and I'm not being condescending. It is a terribly pitiable state for Bihar to be in. They are repeatedly let down by their politicians they have only themselves to blame because they continue to vote on lines which have nothing to do with development. It has only to do with birth. Now, yes, Nisrala said this is important because it guarantees you certain, it ring fences you. But then make that choice. You will never have development. I mean, Uttar Pradesh for years voted on caste lines.
Yeah.
you are seeing what law and order, what some level of economic activity can bring about. So you have the choice. I mean, the voters of Bihar have that choice.
Okay. Just stay on with us. I'm going to take a break. As we take the break, we can play out what Tejashwi Yadav just said as he cast his vote. He came out and he said this vote for Bihar is for the youth, it's for education, it's for employment opportunities. Let's listen into that. We'll take a break and then we'll come back to our conversation.
उम्मीद हम लोग जीतेंगे, सब लोग जीतेंगे, बिहार जीतेगा। 14 को नई सरकार मिलने वाली है। उम्मीद हम लोग जीतेंगे, सब लोग जीतेंगे, बिहार जीतेगा। 14 को नई सरकार मिलने वाली है।
आज का क्या बड़ा मैसेज है मैम वोटर्स के लिए
यही मैसेज है सबसे बड़ा कि सब लोग बाहर निकले और वोट करें, बेहतर भविष्य के लिए वोट करें, अपने बच्चों के भविष्य के लिए वोट करें। जिस तरह से डबल इंजन की सरकार ने बिहार को सिर्फ ठगने का काम किया है और वहीं पे महागठबंधन जो तेजस्वी, एक तरफ आप देखिए प्रधानमंत्री कट्टे की बात करते हैं और तेजस्वी नौकरी देने की बात करते हैं, तो बिहार के लोग बहुत समझदार हैं और इस बार महागठबंधन के पक्ष में सब लोग वोट करेंगे।
दादी के हाथों। This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
So Nikhil Jain, a person like this, especially when Americans themselves are divided, why is there such unanimity in the India alliance over his suitability? Why are you out there giving him certificates when he has peddled fake news about Gujarat, about India, etc., etc.? Nikhil Jain?
Rahul, first of all, it's quite funny to me that when a Republican, India-hating, India-bashing Donald Trump was contesting for the president of the United States, our own Prime Minister Modi, practically went around and campaigned for him. But when a person of Indian origin becomes...
listen, hang on.
Rahul,
one second. Show me one statement from the BJP. 1 second. Show me one statement. No, please don't misquote. Don't misquote those words. You have made it a habit of reading Twitter, WhatsApp forwards and coming here and talking rot. So one second.
Can I just point out the only time Trump used language against India was calling it a dead economy, which his leader Rahul Gandhi took up and supported Trump on it.
Yes.
The attack of
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. The only time that Trump has actually used derogatory words, viewers, as I was telling you, was India is a dead economy. And guess who amplified it? Rahul Gandhi agreed with him till his head nearly fell off his shoulders. Nodded in agreement. But tell me something, Nikhil Jain. Why is the Congress praising a person who
61 seats compared to 59 for the NDA. 30% of the candidates, 1 in 3 candidates in this phase, face some kind of criminal charge or the other. There's also the critical factor, the SIR, which the opposition had made a lot of noise around before the start of campaigning. 57 seats in this phase could see the possible impact of the SIR exercise. The other unpredictable X factor, simply because we don't have any historic data for this, is the first time entrant, the person who's making his debut in this election, PK and his Jan Suraj party. Will he actually come a cropper or will he become kingmaker? Tejashwi Yadav is promising jobs to more than 2 crore youths in Bihar in 20 days. Amit Shah is vowing to deport all the Ghuspetia or the illegal immigrants, the infiltrators. The stage is set for the final electoral battle, the big battle for Bihar 2025.
Okay, there's more news which is coming in from the ground. There's complete chaos at the Veterinary College polling booth in Patna. That is where Arunima is getting us these details. The voters are being turned back as they don't have printouts of the voting slip which the BLO was provided. Now, Arunima, what was the Election Commission's stand on this? And if you could just recap for us what is really happening on the ground now.
So, first, election polling was to begin at 7 in the morning, but there were some technical issues in booth number 203 and 204, which led to a delay of a few minutes. It began about 15-20 minutes late, and subsequently, there were these voters. For example, there's this one voter here with me. Ma'am, आप काफी देर तक लाइन में खड़ी थी और अब वापस चली गई. क्या हुआ?
वहाँ पर्ची जमा नहीं करने पर उन्होंने कहा
देखिए रोमाना, यहाँ पर एक
आपको वोट नहीं दिया जाएगा।
तो आपके पास डिजिटल पर्ची थी?
डिजिटल पर्ची तो अभी हाथ नहीं है,
लेकिन वो प्रिंट आउट मांग रहे हैं।
प्रिंट आउट मांग रहे हैं। पहले उन्होंने बताया नहीं था कि प्रिंट आउट देना है, तो मैं वापस जा रही हूँ।
आप वापस नहीं आएंगे वोट देने?
फिर थोड़े आऊंगी, इतना संभव थोड़े है, कोई हमको गाड़ी घोड़ा थोड़ा प्रोवाइड कर रहा है कि आप आइए, इसलिए संभव नहीं है।
So she's quite upset, and I can tell you at least 2-3 other voters went back who I spoke to. The problem with them is that this is the voter slip that they're supposed to carry, the hard copy of it. But they claim that their BLO never provided the hard copy to them. It was sent to them digitally on their phone. But that phone digital copy of their voter parchi or the
Welcome back to the battle for Bihar as 121 constituencies vote today in the first phase of elections. This Bihar election will also be remembered as the election of poll promises and the battle of the manifestos. Never mind whether those promises can actually be kept. The NDA was the first of the bloc. They've promised and delivered 10,000 rupees to women. This is the signature move of the Nitish campaign this time around. They've given it to over 1 crore women. And the promise is that in the next 6 months to a year, they will be given another 2 lakh rupees for their small businesses. Not to be left behind, Tejashwi Yadav has promised 30,000 rupees in monthly stipends to the Jivika Didis. There are 1.2, 1.3 crore of them, and that will cost a huge amount to the state exchequer. But this is again a promise that both sides have made to women. As far as jobs are concerned and young people, because this has always been a talking point in Bihar, the NDA has promised 1 crore jobs and employment opportunities. The India Alliance, on the other hand, and Tejashwi Yadav, when you do the math on this, it will cost up to 5 lakh crores, 1 government job for each family in Bihar. You're looking at possibly 2.5, almost 3 crore government jobs in a state where currently government jobs are about 26 lakhs or so. The NDA has promised an honorarium, which they are saying they will hike to 3,000 rupees for ASHA workers. Not to be left behind, Tejashwi Yadav has promised contractual workers government job, which means pension, PF, all other provident benefits. The NDA is focused on existing EWS reservations. Remember, Bihar was the first state to instill the caste census. They found out that the EBCs and the MBCs make up 60% of the population. But there is the Supreme Court cap of 50% on increasing reservations. The India Alliance, Tejashwi Yadav and Rahul Gandhi saying if they come to power, they will knock off the 50% cap and they will extend reservation benefits beyond that 50%. I'm still joined in the studios by Rahul Shivshankar, Pallavi Ghosh, Rashid Kidwai is also there with us. So is Suhail Seth. Rashid, the promises galore. But the point is, not all of these promises can be kept. On the one hand, the NDA has, as they claim, given 10,000 rupees to women, 1.2 or 1.3 crore of them. Whereas Tejashwi Yadav is saying, I'll give them 30,000 rupees. But where is the math? I mean, you can't pay 5 lakh crores in a state whose budget outlay is only 3.5 lakh crores.
Yeah, I think, Zaka, this is very unfortunate aspect of our electoral politics. This is actually vote auctioning. People are bidding for each and every vote, and particularly women and youth, all of them are being targeted. It should be asked that why, if government is so keen to give 2 lakh rupees for women to set up business, why it is not being done by a government which has been there in power for 20 years. So therefore, I think this entire narrative is something, I think poll promises something they require some kind of capping, some kind of control. I think election.
No, but it happens in all states. In Karnataka, the Congress promised the same thing. In Telangana, the Congress promised the same thing. In Maharashtra, the BJP, came back to power on the back of Ladki Behan, and now this. I mean, it's become like women voter. Whoever is able to promise and deliver to women voter will come back to power.
Yeah, it started with N.T. Ramarao. It started with N.T. Ramarao way back in 1983. But what I'm saying is now there is, they're promising moon. And as you rightly say, how are political parties, if they are voted to power, how they're going to implement it? You cannot have 5 lakh crore rupees to create jobs. So therefore, when they come to power, then the bureaucrats advise them and they come with a different set of rules. And the poll promises are not implemented in a true spirit of it. So
no,
as
is the case with Ladki Behan in Maharashtra, Rahul. I mean, they promised it, and it was a singular reason why, the NDA government there came back to power. 6 months after coming into power, they realized we just don't have the money. The
Karnataka
treasury doesn't
also.
have enough money to pay.
Telangana,
In
Karnataka
Telangana
also.
and Karnataka. So, I mean, is this not within the ambit of the Election Commission that you can't be
Look,
making
obviously,
these...
I mean, the Election Commission says you can't make false promises, but everyone does. And
So
that's the
somebody's
real,
got to
that's
crack the whip on this.
That's the real problem
I
here.
think we have
I'm sorry, just very
democracy
quickly,
that is being
Suhail,
built
one
on
second.
bribery.
The Supreme Court has already come out and said, look, if I have a quibble, it is that the Supreme, I'm not saying that the Supreme Court is, the God's word or the God's promise or the gospel, but at least rationally speaking, they're saying that, look, the Chief Election Commissioner should be appointed through a process which also gives the other side, the opposition, as well as others, the right to choose who he should be or she should be equally. But the government hasn't paid heed to the spirit of that verdict. It was very clear that even the Chief Justice of India, this, that, the other. Now, you can say that who is the Chief Justice of India to stand on his soapbox? After all, they appoint themselves and so on and so forth. But look, do something about that then.
No, but what about on this case of promising freebies?
So what
Can't
I'm
the Chief
saying
Election
is
Commissioner
that I'm sorry to
crack down
say,
on
but
it?
the Election Commission lets itself down. If there should be a quibble really against the Election Commission, it's not about the vote rolls and so on and so forth. Yes, of course, those are more technical fixes. It is more elemental interventions that they are failing to make. And they're not making them across the board. So I'm not saying that they're being partisan. I'm just saying they're not making them across the board. Look at when the AAP came to power, for example, promising certain things like free Wi-Fi all over the city. Never saw it. They said we're going to put a guard on every bus. Never happened. And so on and so forth. There were many things because they're unaffordable, fundamentally. But the EC doesn't act. It doesn't act across the board. So I'm sorry, but someone needs to come up and...
I think we deserve these politicians if we can get swayed by such utter rubbish. A, B, what kind of democracy are you then talking about? I can bribe my way to get your vote? Is that real electoral politics? I can give you money. I can promise anything. The stupid people are on both sides of the aisle. The guys making the promises are stupid and irresponsible. The guys receiving the so-called bribe or freebie are equally reprehensible. Then they have no right to talk about development. You voted because you had money in your pocket. And by the way, Zaka, this is not Nitish Kumar's money. It is the taxpayers' money.
Of course.
So you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're robbing Peter and you're robbing Paul. You're robbing Peter, who's the taxpayer, and you're robbing Paul of their future. And that is the problem that we're going to see in Bihar. So
No, but
sometimes
Tushar-
I believe
Tushar is also-
these are the leaders we get.
Tushar is also joining us. The problem, Tushar, is, and I think Suhail is 100% right. I mean, people are saying whoever gives me, if I get, I mean, for somebody who barely makes two ends meet, if they're being promised and given 10,000 rupees a month, they'll take it. I mean, Aman Sharma, our editor, political editor yesterday was saying, he spoke to these women, some of these women who got these 10,000 rupees. It's supposedly meant to start your own business. Some have bought a goat, some have bought a sari. It means a hell of a lot in a state where, putting 2 meals or 3 meals together for a day is a difficult thing, even in this day and age.
No, I think the magnitude of freebies is such now that no one has to struggle putting 2 or 3 meals together. Everyone is getting free food grains, everyone is getting free houses, everyone is getting tap water, everyone is getting whatever they want to. And now on the top of it, if you're giving out money to start a business, sure, some of them will actually start a legitimate business. But what about the rest? So that's a big question actually, and that is something that has been sort of worrying the voters in some pockets also, especially the taxpayers. That is this the model to go for in the future? On the other side, you have an opposition that is saying we'll give a government job to every household. Now, that's not feasible in any universe.
Yeah.
But then there are voters who will resonate with this promise. There are voters who will go out and vote for this promise. And then there are voters who will say, okay, we voted for you. We've got you elected. Come on, give us that government job. And the government will also make a situation, make an arrangement where that is possible. So all in all, it's not the real issues that are getting attention. It's more about convincing the voters in whatever manner possible.
Also look at the narrative that was built up in the media. You've commodified the vote, right? There was a time when everyone in the media across the board was cheering for more MSP for farmers, more free water for farmers, free credit for farmers, loan waivers. So, look, there is a whole ecosystem of Indians that still labor under that socialist, sort of social democrat, to use now the more fashionable word.
Socialist democrat.
Absolutely hangover. And this is where the problem begins, because then the politician gets an allowance. Look at the way KCR was exalted for that great scheme that he started.
Raitu Bandhu, yeah.
Raitu Bandhu scheme, which was supposed to be the Deus ex machina for curing the farmer of his problems.
But tell me, Rahul, this election, for example, I've not heard political parties talking about farmers. In fact, all political parties are talking about women. Suddenly, in the last 3 or 4 election cycles, it's like give women $1,000, $1,500, $5,000, $10,000. They are your, ultimate vote bank. Everyone is wanting the women vote bank.
That's very important. That's a good question, because women tend to. Look, you have to also look at the agrarian economy of Bihar. Like, women tend to be the people in Bihar even now that are sort of holding on to the resource in the family, right? And fundamentally, you have a situation where the woman voter is rising above, at least anecdotally, if you look at the data, those very narrow identities that define male voters. So they are seen as a more agnostic to caste sort of vote bank that can swing the vote. Plus, there are more women voters in any case.
Yeah. Correct.
So that in itself is an incentive. If 10% more women are voting than men, well, they're a captive
I just want to show that on the magic wall, if I can. Especially in the last election, this was very, very evident. It's the women vote that kind of saved the NDA. At that time, it was sort of 3-phased election. It was in phases 2 and 3 that it really turned for the NDA. If you look at the women voter, overall across the state, in the last election, there was 69% women who turned up, and there was 64 or 65% men. So there was about a almost 5% gap between women and men. But in these 71 seats, the gap was 10% more, which means for every 10 men who voted, there were 11 women who voted. There was 1 extra woman for every 10 male voters. And it's in these 71 seats, which was in phases 2 and 3 in the last election, that the election actually turned. This is where the NDA scored big. It got 46 out of these 71, and the MGB got just 20. So there was almost a 3:5 kind of a ratio, 2:5 kind of ratio in these women-dominated seats. Many of these seats are voting today. Seats in Mithilanchal, in places like Vaishali, in Darbhanga, in Samastipur. These are the seats that are voting today, and this is where the NDA really saved itself in the last election. If these women turn out, and remember, in a close election, the overall vote share difference was less than 1% between the Gathbandhan and NDA. But as far as these women voters are concerned, there is a 4%, almost 4.5% gap in a state, in a verdict that was really tightly fought. It was, I think, the end result was 125, 115 or something of that sort between the NDA and the MGB. And here you have a 4.5% vote share gap in the 70-odd seats where women dominate.
Zaka, it's a male world. It's a man's world, unfortunately. Where are the women candidates? Why aren't they getting equal representation?
So what does that tell you? That women are willing to vote even for male candidates as long as that candidate's party has given them...
There's identity agnosticism as far as women voters are concerned, unfortunately also. I mean, they need to be also sort of saying, no, actually, hang on.
Yeah.
We're 50% of the population. We actually vote more than men. Why shouldn't we have more women? And I think it'll make for better politics, by the way.
Aman's also joining us here. So, Aman, you were telling us, when you went to Bihar, right after the dates were announced, and you spoke to a lot of these women. Nitish Kumar is banking in a big way on this 10,000 rupees that was announced for women. They're claiming that 1.2, 1.3 crore women have already received that. Why is that making a pivotal difference in this election?
See, Azaka, I think we sit in Delhi and, we sometimes, if you go to the villages in Bihar, you will actually see the poverty there. Women in Bihar who don't work, and very few of them work, 10,000 rupees, getting it in their bank account, perhaps for the first time in their lives, they've got some money of their own. They don't have to borrow this money from their husband, from their brother. This is their money. It's huge empowerment. I have been to villages in Bihar in the last 2 elections, 2015 election, 2020 election. Still, you'll find children in Bihar's villages barefoot. they don't have a chappal to wear in their feet. The state is so poor when it comes to the villages. So I think this rupees 10,000 amount is a huge deal. I think it was a game changer, giving it to 1.3 crore women in the state, delivering the money. And Zaka, we've seen in past elections, both sides make promises to women, the money doles. But whichever side gives the money first gets a first mover advantage, gets into a pole position, and I think Nitish Kumar has managed to do that. I met women, and it's for self entrepreneurship. So women have bought, like I've met women who bought a goat. She said, this goat will give me milk. I will sell that milk. This is my self-entrepreneurship. Somebody's got a bachda. Somebody's bought a swing machine. It's a big deal. Yes, they may have also bought a sari for themselves, or they must have bought new clothes for their children. But these rupees 10,000 is a big amount, and it's even more enticing because Nitish Kumar has said, I will take you to 2 lakh.
And remember that Bihar is a big remittance economy.
Yeah.
And where does that money come? It comes to the woman of the house to spend eventually on the children, themselves, to keep the house running. So they're the custodian. That's why I said they're the custodians of the money in any case.
We talk about the front end, which is the migrant labor, but we don't talk about where that money is coming
and
who's spending that money.
Some women, some men, in fact, Zaga, were upset in the villages that women have been given rupees 10,000. हमारी तो शराब भी बंद कर दिया है नीतीश सरकार ने, और women को और 10,000 दे दिया, तो women have got a voice in the house.
I come back to that point. Let's ask Tushar and Rashid also to weigh in on this. I think the biggest example of this was Ladki Behin in Maharashtra, right? 1,500 rupees, I think, for a period of 3 or 6 months just before the elections. They promised, they delivered that, and that was the game changer, no doubt about it. But 6 months after coming to power, the treasury is empty and the government has gone on record. I think the chief minister has gone on record and said, we can't sustain this for an indefinite period of time. So is that not a matter of concern, Tushar? Is that not something that people are concerned that, you're making these tall promises, but at the end of the day, there's a finite set of resources that you have to fund these freebies?
Well, absolutely, Zaka. Look, fiscal feasibility is paramount in any state, irrespective it's a BJP state or a Congress state. Now, if the government wants to go with a cash transfer model, they'll have to replace certain set of subsidies. You'll have to cut down certain subsidies completely. You cannot have subsidies also and then cash transfers also. If you think empowerment through cash transfers is a better option and not through subsidies, not through e-vouchers, then fine, go ahead with cash transfers, but at least maintain the fiscal feasibility. In some non-BJP states, like Punjab, for instance, there is little money left for capex. Just little money. Where are the state governments coming in when it comes to creating long-term assets? We don't know. In Bihar, since you were talking about farmers and agrarian issues, again, next year, Punjab will start campaigning for 2027 March elections. And suddenly you will hear about this MSP demand being legalized. Yeah. Congress will jump in. The Akalis will jump in. Suddenly the Punjab UP belt will be interested in all this. And that is also a fiscal toll on the state budget, on the center's budget. But again, my point is simple. If this is the welfare model you believe in, that money directly into the bank accounts of women is the model we want to go for, then cut down on other subsidies, because at the end of the day, if you as a state government are not creating long-term assets, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, but eventually you're going to be in a lot of trouble, and that is what you do not want.
Okay, Tushar, just stay on, because the Prime Minister just tweeted about the Phase 1 voting in Bihar. He's in fact got 2 rallies later on today. I think he'll be going to Forbesganj and to Bhagalpur. He'll be speaking to the voters there. He says there's great enthusiasm, and he believes that this enthusiasm will translate into a big mandate for the NDA. Bihar is celebrating democracy with enthusiasm. It's a state where the people are very, very aware of their political rights. It's a very, very deeply political state. So Rashid Gidwai, which is why I thought it was surprising that, at the peak of the SIR thing, when the opposition took it up, in August and in September, and then suddenly they dropped that issue like a hot potato once the campaigning got into full swing, once the dates got announced. It's either that, there was a realization that they picked on the wrong issue, or they felt like that issue was not having resonance after a certain point of time once the final rolls got published and the campaigning began in right earnest. Tejashwi Yadav, I don't think even once mentioned SIR.
Yeah, I think, Sakar, about vote chori allegation, political parties within the India Alliance have a different view and different perception. But I again said, like I told you in one of your programs, it is very important because the process of free and fair election should be above suspicion. And that is where I think, as far as the Congress is concerned, they have continued, they spoke yesterday also, and they continue to do so because they feel that, the fairness of electoral process is very important, and they are trying to build a whole narrative around it.
Who is saying that the process is not, other than the Congress, who is saying that the process is not above board? That the integrity of the process has been compromised?
Zaka, what I'm saying, if what Rahul Gandhi said yesterday, see the digital manipulation is possible, and that needs to be probed. And this is something, it needs to be debated. You cannot just say that, 4 women out of those Rahul Gandhi alleged had voted. Fact is that we have had very high level of, voting percentage between 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. The CCTV footage was not shared, and you have this kind of thing. So is it some kind of digital manipulation taking place?
In a democracy, I believe at the end of the day, the most vote determinant issues, the people decide. I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll wait on the 14th and see, whether vote chori and all this SIR irregularities is the most resonant issue to know whether it moved the needle in Bihar. But I suspect not, because Rahul, at the end of the day, yes, 69 lakh, I think 68.5, 69 lakh voters' names were removed from the voter list. A bulk of them are either people who've passed away, or people who've moved out of the state and who no longer reside there, or people who have duplicate or 2 voter ID cards. Once that number got eliminated, to still go on and on about this issue, including yesterday on the eve of voting, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a better phrase than barking up the wrong tree.
Let's just go back in time. Okay, first you had the EVM issue with EVMs.
Yeah.
EVMs are manipulatable, if that's the word. That they can be remote controlled. So we went through this whole rigmarole over a year. It went up to the Supreme Court. Tests were done. EC demonstrated. You never showed up for those tests. You weren't sitting in that room before the EC and saying, look, I can do this. So you never tested the EC there. You made a lot of noise outside of the system. Okay, that was resolved. Then you shift the goalposts to say that VVPATs, because we don't know what's happening with the vote itself. Fine. Yeah. Is it being counted right? Is the right button being pressed? Or is that button been manipulated itself? So we must have VVPATs. So the Supreme Court then said, okay, increase the number of VVPAT slips that should be given out to voters. So that was done. Then you move the sort of needle to say to another entirely different facet, which is that, look, when we go to vote, the counting itself at that level is being manipulated. So then the Supreme Court got into it again. The procedure was again reiterated before the Supreme Court. You found that you have your own agents in every counting center. You have to fill a form at the end of every listing, every round. And if you don't find there's a problem there, you sign off. If you think there's a problem, you don't sign off. None of those instances, not even one person has ever said that I'm signing a form, a candidate that is, to say that, look, I'm disagreeing with the way the vote has been counted. So there was that elimination. So 3 things got eliminated. Then you said, no. The point is that we've now found out that there are people who are being kicked out of the voter list. Now, the last time you had an enumeration like this was in 2003. A whole generation has come and gone. Then you said, no, actually now we have a problem with turnout. If you remember, the big issue in 2024 was turnout. Turnout is being manipulated. Certain people are being allowed in, certain people are not being allowed in. The timing, the name, the number, the first, computation of the turnout. Then how is it that the number jumps after 11 or 12 hours?
The last hour.
So you have had many of these hoops.
No. So I'm getting to the
you've
larger
got to
question.
Ask the question at some point.
If a political party is going on and on about basically
what
are they trying to get at?
The Supreme Court has just said in its ruling, go before the Election Commission. We can't interfere. It's an autonomous body. Go before the Election Commission. Put in the right format your complaint. Put the proof. If they don't act, then we can step in.
No. So what are they trying to get at? They're trying to get at the nub of the issue is all of these instances.
We are losing not because the voters have lost faith in us. We're losing because the system,
the match is
belongs.
Fixed.
The
system is rigged.
That's right.
The point, though, Rashid, is no one's buying that. No one is buying the argument that the system is rigged.
Not even the
That
allies.
is the problem.
Omar Abdullah says it's not an excuse. This is an excuse. This is not an issue.
Yeah.
He himself is on record to say it. Then there are people from within the Congress, like Mr. Shashi Tharoor, who said, let's stop blaming the machine. For God's sakes, blame the people. Blame, that is, the people who are running the campaign. So blame who you're putting forth.
So, Rashid, this attempt at questioning the integrity of the process, is the process above board? Is it just coming up with excuses for actually losing elections? Because I can't understand.
Not really.
But why is it not catching on? Why is this issue not finding resonance amongst the voters then?
Zaka, we must remember in 2009, Mr. L.K. Advani was leader of opposition. He had also raised up an issue about EVM, credibility of EVM. So it's not that just the Congress is saying
No, but Mr. Advani lost that election, na? 2009 he lost that election.
That's what I'm saying. Zaka, problem is that you're trying to link this fairness of election to the outcome. These are two different things.
Because it has to be. If the process is compromised, then by implication, one second, Rashid, let's have an intellectual argument on this. Right? If you're saying that the process is compromised, right? The match is fixed, then the result is also fixed, right? That's the by implication of this. And if the result is fixed, then people don't care. That's what you're saying, right? The match is fixed, therefore the winner is decided. The winner is already pre-decided.
In a democratic system, if some questions are raised, then these questions need to be answered through a thorough, free and fair probe. Why is that EC is not announcing some kind of probe by former election commissioners, by a retired Supreme Court judge?
I don't know. I still think either the opposition is climbing onto this
electoral rolls.
Climbing onto this issue. No.
A claim has a shelf life of 8 hours today. It is immediately disproved. Rahul Gandhi last time in Alan made a claim about certain voters not existing, this, that, the other. Whether it was newspapers the next morning or TV channels like ours, we went and we checked and we found that, well, sometimes an address is assigned to somebody because they don't have
house
a place.
zero.
House zero.
The
zero.
So, see also, Rahul, I think Bihar is the first state where the election is happening after an SIR, and Bihar is such a politically astute state that even if one voter's vote is taken away, you can expect mayhem. In a village, if there are 5 villagers who say our vote has been taken away, there'll be huge. People really value their vote. Yeah. If 69 lakh people have actually unfairly been taken out of the voter roll, I'm sure there'll be mayhem in Bihar.
At one particular booth right now, a bunch of female voters told our reporter Arunima that, look, we have a problem. They are being lakir ka fakir, so to speak. They want us to bring this vote slip in hard copy, but I have it here on my phone. So we contact the EC. The EC says, sorry, this is not part of the process. Even if you have it on your phone, you can vote. Immediately, those ladies are now voting.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying, that in Bihar, you can't really expect that.
I had, in fact, asked Prashant Kishore when I had met him, how do you look at this SIR issue and how is it panning out? So he said, look, the thing is, it's not resonating on the ground because a lot of the MGB voters, they were anyway on an alert that, whatever it is, there could be some move. So they have got all their papers together. Actually, the NDA voters are the ones who actually been caught wrong-footed because many of them are the migrants who work outside and then come back, for Chhat and then stay on to vote. Many of them have a problem getting their papers together and meeting the electoral, the BLO and making sure that their vote is ensured.
But tell me, why Rahul Gandhi has been added in various iterations, as Rahul just said a moment ago, EVMs to voter turnout and now voter lists, VVPATs. Why would a political party, which is the challenger, go on and on about an issue which seemingly is not resonating on the ground?
They want to elect a new people.
That's a good point.
Rashid, you have the people. It's we the people. You can't change the people.
No. I am saying again, Zaka, I am repeating. The process has to be above any suspicion. If a political parties are raising this issue, this needs to be probed. And in India, we have a system. We have a total committee Raj, commission Raj. Every time there is some wrongdoing, a commission is there. And just one more thing. See, Zaka, in first election in 1951-52, when Sukumar Seth was chief election commissioner, he removed around 1/3 of women voters because they had not given their full name. Now, here you are saying, no, you can be house number 0 or, some sweetie, Savita, those kind of people who are voting repeatedly by a single photo of a Brazilian model. These are serious issues. We just cannot laugh them off. We cannot say that, Rahul Gandhi is trying to,
But how do these issues, sir, resolve themselves?
there
They
is a-
only resolve themselves through a special intensive revision
No,
of the voter rolls,
there
and
is-
who's opposing
the,
that?
The contention that Mr. Gandhi
No,
made
that was
yesterday.
about the
One
timing
second,
of it.
one second, Rashid. The contention that he
It is a
made
good
yesterday was there is this Brazilian lady who's voted 22 times in 10 different booths. That contention has
In a
been busted.
digital manner,
No,
yeah.
that contention has been busted today by some of the papers who sent their reporters to those places and said, is it true that this Brazilian lady voted 22 times in 10 booths? She herself has come out and said, I don't know who's used my photograph. I've never voted in an Indian election. And 4 out of these 22, there are women who've gone and voted with those voter ID cards, with the Brazilian woman's photograph on it. But those are genuine voters. So to say that, a Brazilian woman came and voted in Haryana 22 times in 10 different booths is factually incorrect. Right. Forget about it not having resonance on the ground.
This is not for me, you, or a media house to respond. It is for the election commission. It is election commission credibility at stake. What are they saying?
Rashid, I mean, if the media's job is not to check facts, then what are we doing here? I mean, वही तो हमारा काम है.
So another point that I wanted to bring up, Rashid Bhai, just explain this to me. YSRCP lost massively, decimated. BRS, TRS lost, decimated. BJD decimated. Left in Tripura decimated. JMM wins and comes back to power against all odds, so to speak, in Jharkhand. None of these parties are talking about, and many other bit parties who were in power in Northeast have gone out. None of them talk about the EVMs, only the Congress. How is this possible, sir? Even the NC has not.
No. It is, again, I'm saying you and Zaka, you are linking the process with the outcome. That's the thing.
So what do you think Rahul Gandhi is doing? His whole press conferences, maybe sarkar chori ho gayi. We were winning. And he quotes the same exit polls, showing him in lead in the same exit polls that he held a press conference against and said, these posters, I'm going to file FIRs because they're manipulating the markets.
Look, these allegations need to be probed. That is what I'm saying. I'm not saying what Rahul Gandhi saying is correct. Why is EC trying to, skirt that whole issue? Why can't it come out and say that we are going to have inquiry into it?
Sir, if the EC investigates, you will say the EC is investigating its own case. So it is biased. You're not going to accept the EC's investigation. I mean, there is no winning this.
Tushar?
No, why not? I said former election commissions can do this.
No, Zaka, I'll tell you what will happen. Hold on. I'll tell you what will happen. On 14th, if the NDA wins it fair and square, vote chori has happened. If the Mahagathbandhan wins it, the people have responded to vote chori by voting for the RJD alliance. That is how it's going to play out. Look, Rahul Gandhi's allegations are not only frivolous, they're factually incorrect. Anyone who picks up an ECI manual, there are plenty of manuals on their website to read through the entire process, will understand that how Rahul Gandhi is describing the whole process, it's not really how it works. He is claiming that we get the access to final roles just before the special summary revision. They are updated, they are shared with the political parties well in time. Is Rahul Gandhi claiming that in a booth where the average size is 1,000 electors and 600 to 700 voters, his booth level agents aren't even able to figure out large scale inclusions or deletions? I mean, who's going to take these allegations on face value? And Rahul is right here. We started with EVMs can be hacked via Bluetooth, EVMs can be hacked via USBs, EVMs can have multiple votes added through some sort of a pen drive. And then we came down to some sort of a battery issue with the EVMs. Now we are going to how electoral list is a problem. The electoral list has discrepancies. That's fine. But are you saying all those discrepancies necessarily amount to voters? No. All those voters necessarily amount to BJP voters? No. All those voters, even with all the ECI mechanisms in place at every booth, have voted twice? Absolutely not. So all this is based on a very fancy hypothetical, which Rahul Gandhi backs up with, oh, look, Nayab Saini is smiling. Oh, look, I am telling the truth. You have to believe me because I am telling the truth. Beyond the point, who will believe him? Even the RJD. Look what happened with the Bihar election. The campaign started with Rahul Gandhi doing a very long, elaborate yatra in Bihar in the name of vote chori, where even Tejashwi Yadav was reduced to a shadow figure. People were questioning if he's still the CM candidate or not. And has the RJD in its campaign in the last 1 month even once endorsed the vote chori campaign? Absolutely not. Even today, they're reaching out to the youth in the name of employment, they're reaching out in the name of development, caste and all that, but they're not saying you're voting against vote chori of the NDA. They're not. If your alliance partners, your closest alliance partners in Uttar Pradesh, in Maharashtra, in Bihar, in Jharkhand, in West Bengal are not endorsing this narrative, so one has to really question, is this narrative for the political gallery or for your own party's, theatrics to just stay relevant in the media? That's the question we must ask.
All right, we'll take a break on that note. When we come back, we'll talk about the issues that actually matter to the people of Bihar, whether it is jobs, unemployment, health, education, etc. And of course, these freebies galore on both sides, frankly, on both sides. I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk about that and more in just a moment.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
"61 seats compared to 59 in this phase face some kind of criminal charge or the other. There's also the critical factor, the SIR, which the opposition had made a lot of noise around before the start of campaigning. 57 seats in this phase could see the possible impact of the SIR exercise. The other unpredictable X factor, simply because we don't have any historic data for this, is the first time entrant, the person who's making his debut in this election, PK and his Jan Suraj party. Will he actually come a cropper or will he become kingmaker? Tejashwi Yadav is promising jobs to more than 2 crore youths in Bihar in 20 days. Amit Shah is vowing to deport all the Guspetiya or the illegal immigrants, the infiltrators. The stage is set for the final electoral battle, the big battle for Bihar 2025.
Okay, there's more news which is coming in from the ground. There's complete chaos at the Veterinary College polling booth in Patna. That is where Arunima is getting us these details. The voters are being turned back as they don't have printouts of the voting slip which the BLO was provided. Now, Arunima, what was the Election Commission's stand on this? And if you could just recap for us what is really happening on the ground now.
So, first, election polling was to begin at 7 in the morning, but there were some technical issues in booth number 203 and 204, which led to a delay of a few minutes. It began about 15-20 minutes late, and subsequently, there were these voters. For example, there's this one voter here with me. Ma'am, आप काफी देर तक लाइन में खड़ी थी और अब वापस चली गई, क्या हुआ?
वहाँ पर्ची जमा नहीं करने पर उन्होंने कहा कि यहाँ पर आपको वोट नहीं दिया जाएगा।
आपके पास डिजिटल पर्ची थी?
डिजिटल पर्ची तो अभी हाथ नहीं है,
लेकिन वो प्रिंट आउट मांग रहे हैं।
प्रिंट आउट मांग रहे हैं। पहले उन्होंने बताया नहीं था कि प्रिंट आउट देना है, तो मैं वापस जा रही हूँ।
आप वापस नहीं आएंगी वोट देने?
फिर थोड़े आऊंगी, इतना संभव थोड़े है, कोई हमको गाड़ी घोड़ा थोड़ा प्रोवाइड कर रहा है कि आप आइए, इसलिए संभव नहीं है।
So she's quite upset, and I can tell you at least 2-3 other voters went back who I spoke to. The problem with them is that this is the voter slip that they're supposed to carry, the hard copy of it. But they claim that their BLO never provided the hard copy to them. It was sent to them digitally on their phone, but that phone digital copy of their voter parchi or the voting slip is not being accepted inside the polling booth. So a lot of them have gone back, saying they're not going to come back. The BLO, I spoke to her. BLO, in fact, was the first voter. So when I checked with her as to why is it that the voter parchi has not been provided, she seemed clueless. She said, I'm trying to find an answer. I'll come back. Give me 10 minutes.
Did you get to speak to anyone from the Election Commission? What would they have to say about this?
So I've just sent the update to the Election Commission officials as well. They're all checking as to why this chaotic situation has arisen here. Voting now is you see the line here. I'll just try and give you a glimpse of the line here. The line is from here, but you see the two polling booths, there is nobody in queue standing there anymore. Just 10 minutes back, there were at least 20-25 people. The BLO in fact is here. Ma'am, आपने सबसे पहले वोट दिया था. एक मिनट अपना एक्सपीरियंस हमारे साथ साझा कीजिए, कैसा रहा? प्लीज आइए एक मिनट. कैसा रहा आपका एक्सपीरियंस?
बहुत अच्छा रहा।
बहुत अच्छा रहा।
बहुत अच्छा रहा।
हाँ, आपको कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं आई?
नहीं, कोई परेशानी नहीं है, सारा व्यवस्था।
लेकिन कुछ लोग यहाँ हैं जो शिकायत कर रहे हैं कि उनको पर्ची नहीं मिली है।
नहीं मैम, वैसा बात नहीं, सबको मिल गया। बहुत कोई लोग मोबाइल के थ्रू लिया तो निकाला नहीं, और कोई
तो ये गलती उनकी है। हाँ, so she is the BLO. She is being accused of not providing the parchi, but her defense is that the onus was on the voter to take out the printout of the parchi online. So there is an update which is required from the Election Commission. We've sent them the request, waiting for their response on this.
Okay, thank you very much, Arunima. We're going to keep coming back to you, reporting from the ground in Patna. But before I go back to the studio, Maithili Thakur cast her vote. Let's listen to what she had to say.
मेरी शुरुआत रोज भगवान के नाम के साथ होती है, उनके आशीर्वाद के साथ होती है। और मैं बस यही भगवान से मांगती हूँ कि अगर मेरे हाथों किसी की सेवा लिखी है, किसी का भला लिखा है, तो मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले।
कैसा रहेगा?
Welcome back. There are some X factors in the big election, the big battle for Bihar. Anti-incumbency, of course, it's the almost leitmotif of elections here in India. But Nitish Kumar, he's been Chief Minister for the last 20 years, almost uninterrupted, other than that brief interim with Jitin Ram Manjhi. So he's on the ticket. It's going to be a test of Nitish Kumar and whether he can withstand 20 years of anti-incumbency and get another 5-year term. So that's going to be the number one X factor. Women voters. And we saw this last election. It's the women who saved the day for the NDA in phases 2 and 3. Will they change the balance of power? This is a constituency that Nitish Kumar has cultivated over the last 20 years. The Mahagathbandhan is also wooing them with 30,000 rupees for Jivika Didis, etc. Then there is the SIR, and we've talked about this. The opposition made this into the biggest issue before the election dates got announced, all through August and September, through the Voter Adhikar Yatra, but then suddenly no one's talking about SIR. And then the NDA has put the spotlight on what they call the Jungle Raj. Everyone from the Prime Minister downwards has talked about, the bad old days of the 1990s. But the MGB is trying to sort of turn that on its head with the arrest of this JDU candidate, Anand Singh. He's behind bars. The rising crime graph in the last few months in Patna city. Will it stick, though, on Nitish Kumar and the JDU? We'll see. And lastly, the great unknown, which is Prashant Kishore. He's drawing crowds, particularly young people. They say they like his messaging. But is Bihar ready for a caste agnostic sort of politics? Will he just, flatter to deceive, as it were? I believe Nitish Kumar has just come out. All right, Payal, I believe, is there where at the voting booth where Nitish Kumar will be voting. So, yeah, Payal, go ahead, take it away.
Well, Nitish Kumar is expected to reach around 10 a.m. in the morning, but the preparations are certainly in place. You can see the security being beefed up as well. But there is a queue that is really over here as well. And we'll have to just try and get hold of some people and speak to them, especially the fact we'll have to just wait here, Zaka, because, we can't go any further as well. But 10 o'clock in the morning, the security is here, the protocol department is here. Everybody is waiting for Nitish Kumar to come, and it's going to be a very crucial election for his party, for him, and a very crucial vote for him as well, because he obviously, is been the face of development. A lot of women queuing up at this booth as well. You can see the old, the young, all of them really come up and, cast their vote. And this is the beauty of our democracy. This is actually the festival of democracy that we actually see in this country, where people take each and every ballot very, very seriously as well. I'm going to connect with you in some time from now when Nitish Kumar is just here, Zaka.
All right, thanks for that, Payal. I keep coming back to this whole SIR exercise, vote chori, voter adhikar yatra. At that time, at least drawing by the crowds that Rahul Gandhi was drawing, it was like, oh, he's arrived and he's creating, a big splash there in Bihar. But then he didn't go to campaign. I think he didn't go to campaign for a good, 15, 20 days after the dates were, yeah. So there was basically 2 months, in the
September
interim.
1st
and then he went at the end of October.
Yeah, there's a statistic actually that Rahul, Priyanka and Kharge, the total number of rallies they have done, PM has done the same number of rallies alone. So that speaks of the campaign, how Rahul Gandhi just did these 2 joint rallies with Tejashwi, and then, he did his few other rallies where he also spoke of SIR again and vote chori, which obviously is not getting any any traction on the ground. But I think, Zaka, the big issue, I think this election will be determined by the women of Bihar. There is multiple issues in that. Number one, of course, tied to the women vote is the Jungle Raj issue as well. Women in Bihar really fear that if RJD comes back, the pre-Lalu era is going to come back. And that is one reason that for the last 4 elections, they have voted for Nitish Kumar. And that remains. What is adding to that? I think this time even more solidifying the women vote, besides this Jungle Raj factor and the prohibition, which of course a big gift of Nitish, is this rupees 10,000 scheme. You travel in Bihar, you find women have actually got the money. And Nitish Kumar did a smart thing, I believe, because Tejashwi was the first one to announce that they'll give rupees 2,500 per month to women if they come to power. Nitish gave 10,000 in one go. So, women have actually got the amount. That has forced Tejashwi to now say that on Makar Sankranti in January, I will give rupees 30,000 in one go, the 2,500
They've rupees
of the
already bought
whole
livestock, chickens,
yes, they bought.
whatever
So
they want to do,
so I
like
think the
little
woman vote,
entrepreneurial
the woman
things.
is a big factor in this election. I think Nitish Kumar has managed to solidify his vote bank. And
No, but
that
Rashid was making that point that this is akin to voter bribery. This is what it is. I mean, if this whole thing is about, wasn't that the point you were making, Rashid, that this is like bribing the voter?
Absolutely. This is auctioning of votes and vote going to the highest bidder kind of thing.
Auctioning the vote. Is that how the women of Bihar see it?
Yes, but then the Election Commission should step in and say it, because the only thing that the Election Commission has done with regard to freebies is to ask political parties that make these promises to also give out the financial wherewithal. How are you going to be...
but don't people also know,
it is a fundamentally bad thing, especially for state finances. Most states are going to really be in a very, very bad situation.
When Tejashwi Yadav promises one government job in every household, we're looking at 2.5 to 3 crore government jobs in a state which has 25, 26 lakh government jobs. Don't people also know that this is not going to happen? They do. But yet they vote on that very same issue.
See, I think
some do.
No, so again, I'm coming back to that point. Why? Either the people are saying, I'm so poor and deprived, whatever I get, that itself is good enough for me.
See.
Or they're saying like...
See, we talk about the Indian state and cradle to the grave and all sorts of things, but actually what people get from the Indian state in return for their direct and indirect taxes is actually very little. So the people feel that whatever we are getting, let's just get it.
Oh, is it as Rahul keeps saying,
if these guys are giving us in lieu of votes, we are okay.
The famous phrase in India is "My Baap Sarkar." You're still, it's still a patronage state. I mean, that's what you've been saying for a very long time.
In 2001, I wrote an editorial trying to explain how is it that the DMK that had given out so much basically lost to AIDMK. And my editor called it the Westminster model, the headline for the editorial. And basically, it was just about who could promise, who could give more from the exchequer to the voter.
And the voter also feels that it's his due.
It's his due.
But it's a jobs thing also, Zaka. I think jobs has the most relevance, bigger relevance in Bihar, because unemployment is a serious problem. This is the state sending the highest number of migrants to other states for jobs. So, when I traveled to the ground at this time, I saw at every press conference, besides the traditional media, there are at least 100 YouTubers. These are young men and women who have not found a job in Bihar, who have taken to YouTube and news to create their own revenue stream. It speaks of the system. And jobs, I think, when Tejashwi Yadav says, I will give 3 crore jobs, government jobs, people feel that 3 crore nahi dega, 1 crore to dega na, shayad mujhe mil jaye. And mind it, we all said it is unfeasible, but BJP was forced to follow Tejashwi Yadav and say in their manifesto that we will give 1 crore jobs after ridiculing Tejashwi Yadav for his 3 crore jobs promise. So I think both the parties realize that jobs is a huge issue, unemployment is a huge issue. You will go to Patna and go to Fraser Road and you will find these coaching centers all over that place. People are trying to get into UPSC, people are trying to get into competitive exam because there is simply no government job available.
But tell me, Aman, so why is that not held as the failure of the incumbent? I mean, the incumbent has been there for 2 decades. The incumbent has to be held accountable for why they have not created jobs.
It is held against him. It is. And when you speak to the young people who, the Prashant Kishore and both Tejashwi Yadav are trying to quote in this election, they are, even today, Tejashwi Yadav has tweeted, Gen Z, please go and vote. He is trying to tell, and he successfully, I think, managed to convince the young voter of Bihar that there is no future for you in Bihar unless we come to power, bring industry, bring jobs here, because Nitish Kumar has failed to give those jobs, and that is a fact on the ground. The job situation is not developed in a way it should have over the last 20 years, but there are other issues because there's no industry there. How do you create jobs? Either you give government jobs or you get private industry to come set up shop and
security, then comes industry.
Yeah, so it's all interlinked. There is no industry in Bihar. Now NDA is speaking about setting up a semiconductor plant in Bihar. Good luck, if that happens. But first you have to bring the heavyweights, the Tatas and the other big industry houses to Bihar and come set up shop there. That has happened in UP, for example. Yogi has managed to do that, but Nitish Kumar somehow was not able to do that.
Mr. Love?
I agree with a lot of what Aban is saying, but the point is that this all comes down to the question of alternatives. What is it that you want? I mean, when Tejashwi Yadav talks about bringing in industry and says, I admire Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin because he can go out and
even campaign there.
get investment into his own state, etc. I mean, if you compare Bihar and Tamil Nadu, there is a huge history of industrialization and encouragement despite the freebie politics that has taken place in that state.
Yeah.
And in Bihar, if you talk about what happened during Lalu Prasad Yadav's regime or his wife's regime, you have all these stories about, law and order issues, people being picked up for rangdari or, extortion. And I remember a very senior railway official who I used to meet with when Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav became railway minister in 2004. He went to welcome him into his new office, and he said, oh, you were the one who got kidnapped once and I got you released because this guy used to be in Eastern Railway, and it was that kind of a situation. Doctors used to get kidnapped in Patna. Anybody doing even this bit of business would get kidnapped. So there's always that comparison, and people say, all right, you are talking the right things, but can you deliver? Can you? Is the situation?
So it boils down to
is the social coalition that is backing you? Will it allow it to happen?
So it boils down to Tejashwi Yadav is not able to shake off this legacy of his father or his mother.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Yes.
He hasn't put Lalu Prasad's picture on any of his posters. If you go to the RJD office in Patna, it is a strange sight, and Pallavi did that story about that you can't find a Lalu Prasad picture in the RJD office anymore, any poster. So he's definitely tried to keep Lalu Prasad out of the posters because he thinks the moment you put him there...
On whose money does he finance these elections?
Yeah, obviously, we all know that.
If you have some votes, somebody will finance it for you.
Tushar, so, what I find fascinating is that if everyone is saying, and even anecdotally everyone is saying, for young people, jobs are the issue, employment is the issue, they have to migrate from the state is the issue, why is that not resonating against the incumbent and in favor of the challenger? It's either that people don't trust the challenger to solve that problem, or they feel like, this issue is anyway, this is the curse of the place. I mean, we're going to just live with this.
No, Zaka, when it comes to not just Bihar, but pan-India, trust is a very big factor between the BJP and the non-BJP parties, not just with respect to freebies, also with respect to employment, industry, and the whole business and employment generation part. People trust the BJP to solve a lot of problems, but the same trust is often not showcased to a lot of regional parties, and especially the Congress as well. Now, today, the battle in Bihar is going to be, are enough women voters going to turn up for the NDA, or there are going to be enough young voters swinging the vote towards the Mahagathbandhan away from the NDA. Tejashwi Yadav's best hope is that the youth actually rally behind him, lock, stock and barrel, and that actually might be a shifting point in this entire election. I personally wanted JDU to fight on lesser number of seats than the BJP, perhaps a 90-110 kind of a combination, because of the whole anti-incumbency against Nitish Kumar, because of this urge within the young voters to go for a change, and that's very natural amongst them. The kind of aspirations they have, Aman just pointed out how most of them are signing up on YouTube, other social media channels to create a revenue stream for themselves. So they are also looking at their own aspirations. They have been having the internet for the last 5-7 years. They're looking how the world is moving around them, how other states, say Uttar Pradesh or even Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh is moving on. And they probably feel that lack of opportunities. And that is where Tejashwi Yadav offers some ray of hope for them. They might not agree with his politics, but this idea that maybe I could be the one who gets a government job and I'll be settled for life. That's the mindset with which they might go to the voting booths. And if they are, what can the NDA really do? Their best hope is the women voters. Tejashwi Yadav's best hope is the youth voters. And they all will bank on their primary voter bank, like the Muslim Yadav for the Mahagathbandhan and the non-Yadav OBCs and the EVCs for the NDA. But at the end of the day, it's within this 10% that the election would really be decided. And that is where I think the trust becomes an important factor. How many women trust that Tejashwi Yadav is not going to be like Lalu Prasad Yadav when it comes to being a chief minister? And how many young voters trust that Nitish Kumar wasn't able to deliver jobs, maybe Tejashwi Yadav can. It's all about trust and that 10% margin.
One person we haven't talked about at all since the morning broadcast is actually Chirag Paswan.
Yes.
And he could actually be the critical factor between last election and this. I mean, he, in the last election, I think virtually every constituency where the JDU had put up a candidate, he put up a candidate.
32 seats they lost.
There's evidence to show that that's why the JDU lost the way in which it did. Even this time, I know that even within the NDA, the fact that he got 29 seats, a lot of smaller parties in the NDA were not exactly happy about it. Do you think his 5-6% vote might actually be the sort of tipping
when we
factor?
started the broadcast, I made the point that this phase is really about the smaller parties and how they're going to amplify for their lead parties the vote. And that is the transference that everyone is relying on. Will the Congress, and we have to in parentheses say that it is a smaller party in Bihar. It's one of the smaller 5 or 7% vote?
Yeah.
7% vote, I think, for the Congress.
Less than that, 6%.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So basically, it must be able to transfer its vote to the RJD. This time, we'll have to see if parties like the MIM can play that role. Last time, the left played a huge role for the MGB. The VIP on the side of the NDA, this time, of course, things have flipped. Yeah. You have one party that's come in. And therefore, it's these smaller parties, it's the bit players that one really needs to look at, Zach. And I think that maybe if you have some sort of a display there, data display, we can look at really how much these smaller parties actually bring to the table and how effective they are.
Let's look at that on the magic wall. This was, it was a very close election, like I said, 125 to 110. But if you were to break down the NDA, last time around, remember, Chirag Paswan got 5.5%, more than 5.5% of the vote. He was fighting separately, just one seat. But largely, he put up candidates in all of those constituencies where the JDU had put up a candidate. He got 5.5%, almost 6% of the vote, but only one seat. But what he did in the process was spoil the chances of the JDU. If you look at the JDU's number, even though they fought, I think the JDU last time around fought one seat more than the BJP, if I'm not mistaken. But the BJP ended up with 74 seats and the JDU just 43, even though they contested almost near equal seats. And the reason why that happened was because a lot of the JDU candidates got hurt by Chirag Paswan. Remember, at that time, his uncle, there was this whole fight going on between uncle and nephew. The uncle was with the NDA, but he was not of much help. It was the nephew who contested on his own and put up candidates against JDU candidates, and he managed to reduce the JDU from their sort of 18-19% down to about 15%. So that loss of 2-3% made all the difference last time around, and that's how the JDU went down to just 43 seats. If you were to look at the Mahagathbandhan, and I'm going to just play that out again on the other side, the Mahagathbandhan, at that time, the VIP party was not with the Mahagathbandhan. They were on the other side. They were with the NDA. And despite that, the VIP party ended up with 4 seats with just 1.5% vote share. Just do that comparison. The LJP had 5.5% vote share, 1 seat. The VIP had 1.5% vote share, but 4 seats. Now this party is not on this side of the coalition. They're on the other side of the ledger. Will they translate in such a fashion? Especially, one could make that case that Mukesh Sahni has now been declared as the Deputy Chief Minister.
Hard data onto that illustration that you made. So the backward caste as a whole, EBCs and OBCs are 60% of the population in Bihar. Okay. The Yadavs in the OBC list, 27.2%. The Yadavs are about 14.3%. The Kushwaha, 4.2%. Kurmi, 2.9%. Bania, 2.3%. Surajpuri Muslims, 2%. Now, if the MGB has to retain and do as well as it did in 2020, it has to ensure that it's breaking beyond the Yadavs,
of course,
right, and the Muslim vote, which means that it must get a bit of the Teli vote. If you look at the EBCs, overall EBCs 36%, 112 castes. Telis 2.8%, Malas 2.6%, Kanu 2.2%, Dhanuk 2.1%, and then a large number of Muslim castes 8.3%. So the Muslims, if one were to assume, are voting as an en bloc this time and not being fractured by the MIM. Remember, the MIM itself is playing a very sort of nebulous game here. In Hyderabad, it is giving support to the Congress, to the Congress, the India bloc. Here, of course, it seems to be in sort of antagonist, but who knows? Fundamentally, if the Muslims vote as a bloc and the others vote as a bloc for the MGB, if you were to take that, then all the MGB needs to do is to ensure that the VIPs, the other parties...
Let's talk about this Mukesh Sahni character, because outside of Bihar, he's not really a nationally known figure.
No. Yeah.
Why is he being courted so much by both sides that straight away he was announced as the Deputy Chief Minister?
See, there was a lot of fear that he would actually
jump,
which is why he was really overcompensated in my view. And his voters are are with him, because when I travel to some of those areas, yes, there was a little bit of a thing, take a hand, whatever. But the Saini voters, the Malla voters, many of them felt actually quite aggrieved by the BJP, because their MLAs then joined, after being elected, they joined another party, which is the BJP. So they said these guys, after getting elected, taking our votes, they basically abandoned us. And instead of pushing for our interests within the NDA, they did not. So, is baar aap dekhega, hum karenge. So, there is a lot of hope that Mukesh Sahni will finally come into his own and get and deliver for the alliance that he is with. Coming to Chirag Paswan, yes, he played a spoiler in at least 32 seats for the JDU. JDU backroom actually has done this calculation and said that the margin of defeat in 32 seats has been, less than what the LJP candidate got in those seats. So they were upbeat that, okay, fine, there will be a transfer of votes. They're hoping that there will be a transfer of votes. But historically, if you see, this is the first election actually that the LJP assembly election that they are fighting on the side of the JDU within the NDA. Before that, they hadn't.
They haven't. And Mukesh Sahni is a very interesting
And there is a lot of bad blood between the JDU and the LJP. Of course, first of all, between personality clash between Mr. Paswan and Ramvilas Paswan and Nitish Kumar, but also because Nitish Kumar, by designating Mahadalits, he gave a Mahadalit category to all scheduled castes, barring the Paswan community. That was really taken very, very badly. So there is a lot of bad blood there. God knows if that will come together.
Just to compare statistically again, it just so happens that the paper is right there in front of me and one can make that comparison. So in 2020, the assembly performance, the BJP had 32 seats. NDA goes up to 41. The BJP goes up to 41. 2024 LS segment, when Paswan comes back, and if you project it onto an assembly map, JDU goes from 23 to 29, and the other NDA goes from 4 to 25. So that is the effect of this vote transference, if it works optimally.
If it works on the ground.
See, it's very clear that, in
what
Bihar...
I had heard was that when this seat adjustment was announced, with 29 seats to the LJP, it seems that Nitish Kumar was furious. And there was a lot of talk in Patna at that time, because I was there in that city, that he basically called his party's faces right now, and one of whom is a union minister, and said, who signed off on this seat adjustment?
Okay, quickly we have to take a break.
See, Zaka, I think as the graphic showed, never does a one party win seats in Bihar. It's always an alliance. I spoke to Chirag Paswan in an interview a couple of months back, and he told me that many people called me the X factor of the 2020 elections. I won just one seat. I did get some vote share, because outside an alliance, and that is why I personally feel Prashant Kishore will not be able to make a big impact, because outside the two traditional alliances, if a party is fighting alone, you're not able to perform. VIP did not win 4 seats on its own merit. It won because it was with the NDA at that time.
Someone misquotes me, I just want to say that I was talking about phase 1. Those numbers that I talked about were phase 1.
We'll take a break, but our coverage continues. On the other side, we're also expecting the pictures of the meeting that happened yesterday between the Prime Minister and the victorious Indian women's cricket team. That's going to be on the other side of the break. We'll continue our coverage on the Battle for Bihar in just a moment. See you on the other side.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
61 seats compared to 59 for the NDA. 30% of the candidates, 1 in 3 candidates in this phase, face some kind of criminal charge or the other. There's also the critical factor the SIR, which the opposition had made a lot of noise around before the start of campaigning. 57 seats in this phase could see the possible impact of the SIR exercise. The other unpredictable X factor, simply because we don't have any historic data for this, is the first time entrant, the person who's making his debut in this election, PK and his Jan Suraj party. Will he actually come a cropper or will he become kingmaker? Tejashwi Yadav is promising jobs to more than 2 crore youths in Bihar in 20 days. Amit Shah is vowing to deport all the Guspetiya or the illegal immigrants, the infiltrators. The stage is set for the final electoral battle, the big battle for Bihar 2025.
Okay, there's more news which is coming in from the ground. There's complete chaos at the veterinary college polling booth in Patna. That is where Arunima is getting us these details. The voters are being turned back as they don't have printouts of the voting slip which the BLO was provided. Now, Arunima, what was the Election Commission's stand on this? And if you could just recap for us what is really happening on the ground now.
So, first, election polling was to begin at 7 in the morning, but there were some technical issues in booth number 203 and 204, which led to a delay of a few minutes. It began about 15-20 minutes late, and subsequently there were these voters. For example, there's this one voter here with me. Ma'am, आप काफी देर तक लाइन में खड़ी थी और अब वापस चली गई, क्या हुआ?
वहाँ पर्ची जमा नहीं करने पर उन्होंने कहा
कि हमारे यहाँ पर
आपको वोट नहीं दिया जाएगा।
तो आपके पास डिजिटल पर्ची थी?
डिजिटल पर्ची तो अभी हाथ नहीं है,
लेकिन वो प्रिंट आउट मांग रहे हैं।
प्रिंट आउट मांग रहे हैं। पहले उन्होंने बताया नहीं था कि प्रिंट आउट देना है, तो मैं वापस जा रही हूँ।
आप वापस नहीं आएंगी वोट देने?
फिर थोड़े आऊंगी, इतना संभव थोड़े है, कोई हमको गाड़ी घोड़ा थोड़ा प्रोवाइड कर रहा है कि आप आइए, इसलिए संभव नहीं है।
So she's quite upset, and I can tell you at least 2-3 other voters went back who I spoke to. The problem with them is that this is the voter slip that they're supposed to carry, the hard copy of it. But they claim that their BLO never provided the hard copy to them. It was sent to them digitally on their phone, but that phone digital copy of their voter parchi or the voting slip is not being accepted inside the polling booth. So a lot of them have gone back, saying they're not going to come back. The BLO, I spoke to her. BLO, in fact, was the first voter. So when I checked with her as to why is it that the voter parchi has not been provided, she seemed clueless. She said, I'm trying to find an answer. I'll come back. Give me 10 minutes.
Did you get to speak to anyone from the Election Commission? What would they have to say about this?
So I've just sent the update to the Election Commission officials as well. They're all checking as to why this chaotic situation has arisen here. Voting now is you see the line here. I'll just try and give you a glimpse of the line here. The line is from here. But you see the two polling booths, there is nobody in queue standing there anymore. Just 10 minutes back, there were at least 20-25 people. The BLO in fact is here. Ma'am, आपने सबसे पहले वोट दिया था. 1 मिनट अपना एक्सपीरियंस हमारे साथ साझा कीजिए. कैसा रहा? प्लीज आइए एक मिनट. कैसा रहा आपका एक्सपीरियंस?
Welcome back to the big battle for Bihar. We're talking about the VVIP candidates, where they are fighting from, who they are up against, and how this battle for Bihar will be shaped by a lot of these VVIP candidates. Let's start with the incumbent Deputy Chief Minister Samrat Chaudhary. You saw visuals of him voting a moment ago. He's, of course, the BJP incumbent from Munger. He's fighting from there. Ram Kripal Yadav, former Union Minister, again of the BJP, fighting from Danapur. You have Maithili Thakur, who is possibly one of the youngest candidates in the fray. She's fighting for the BJP from Alinagar. We don't know how easy or difficult her election campaign is going to be. Mangal Pandey, who used to be the BJP, used to be the state president sometime back. He's fighting for the BJP in Siwan, which of course used to be the RJD stronghold at one point of time. Tej Pratap Yadav, the son of Lalu Prasad Yadav, the brother of Tejashwi Yadav, fighting on his own this time after being kicked out of the RJD from a constituency called Mahua. There's Jagruti Thakur, who is the granddaughter of Karpuri Thakur, the late and famous EBC leader in Bihar. She's fighting on the JSP, the Jan Suraj's ticket, from a place called Morwa. There's Osama Shahabuddin, who is, of course, Shahabuddin's son. He's been given the ticket by the RJD. He's fighting from Raghunathpur. There's Keshri Lal Yadav, the singer, the actor. He's again fighting on the RJD's ticket from the traditional Lalu seat of Chhapra. Tejashwi Yadav, the challenger, the leader of the opposition, hoping to become the next chief minister, fighting from Raghopur. And then Santosh Sani, who's the brother of Mukesh Sani, who's been declared as the opposition's deputy chief ministerial face. He's fighting from Gaurabaram and on the VIP ticket. So these are the big VVIP contestants as far as the Bihar election. Let's play out some footage from Patna, where Nitish Kumar is expected to arrive in the next few minutes. He is the incumbent chief minister. He's been in the gaddi for the last 20 years as CM. He is the incumbent, and this is really possibly his last election, a vote either in favor or against him, on his record, on his legacy. Nistula, I mean, you were there covering his campaign for the last many elections.
मेहनत कर रहे हैं, वो ट्रॉफी यहाँ पे लेकर आ पाए।
आप ये टैटू लगा के घूमती रहती हैं, तो हनुमान जी तुम्हें क्या मदद करते हैं?
मुझे लगता है कि वो कठिनाइयों से मैं बाहर आ जाऊँ।
इंस्टाग्राम अकाउंट पर भी जय श्री राम लिखती हो?
जी, उस पर भी लिखा हुआ है। हाँ जी।
अमन, आपने ये जो जीतने के बाद बॉल जेब में रखा,
ये था कि अब ये मेरे पास है, ये तो ये मेरे पास ही रहेगी, अभी भी मेरे बैग में ही है।
आपका एक कैच ही तो सब ज्यादा फेमस हो गया है।
पहली बार ऐसे फंबल करने पे अच्छा लग रहा था।
आप कैच होने से पहले हंस रही थी, क्या कारण था?
सर बस मैं मन में बोल रही थी, आजा कैच, आजा मेरे पास, आजा। तो उसमें बस मुझे हंसी आ गई कि आ गई हाथ में मेरे।
बहुत बड़ा आज का दिन है, देव दिवाली भी है और गुरु पर्व भी है, तो बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण दिवस है।
हैप्पी गुरुपुरब सर।
आप सबको बहुत शुभकामनाएं।
Honorable Prime Minister, thank you very much. We feel honored and privileged coming here. Just एक कैंपेन के बारे में बताऊंगा, जो इन्होंने कमाल कर दिया, इन लड़कियों ने, देश की बेटियों ने कमाल कर दिया। 2 साल से लगे हैं सर, मेहनत इतनी की है, कमाल की मेहनत की है इन्होंने। हर प्रैक्टिस सेशन में उतनी ही इंटेंसिटी से खेले, हर प्रैक्टिस सेशन में उतनी ही एनर्जी से उतरे ग्राउंड में। यही कहूँगा कि इनकी मेहनत रंग लाई।
सर मुझे अभी भी याद है कि जब हम 2017 में आपको मिले थे, उस टाइम हम ट्रॉफी के साथ नहीं आए थे, लेकिन ये हमारे लिए बहुत ऑनर की बात है कि इस बार हम आपको जिसके लिए हम इतने सालों से मेहनत कर रहे हैं, वो ट्रॉफी यहाँ पे लेकर आ पाए, और आपने आज हमारी खुशी वो 2 गुना और ज़्यादा बढ़ा दिया है, और हमारे लिए ये बहुत ऑनर की बात है। और अभी हमारा यही एम है कि हम फ्यूचर में आपको बार बार मिले और बार बार आपके साथ टीम के साथ फोटोज खिंचाते रहे।
नहीं, सचमुच में आप लोगों ने बहुत बड़ा काम किया है, और भारत में क्रिकेट एक खेल नहीं है, एक प्रकार से भारत के लोगों की जिंदगी बन गया है। और क्रिकेट में अच्छा होता है तो भारत अच्छा फील करता है, और क्रिकेट में थोड़ा सा भी इधर होगा तो पूरा भारत हिल जाता है। आपको भी जब 3 मैच लगातार हारे, तो जो ट्रोलिंग सेना है, जिस प्रकार से आपके पीछे पड़ गए।
जब हम पहले 2017 में मिले थे, तब हम फाइनल हार कर आए थे, लेकिन तब सर ने हमें बहुत मोटिवेट करा था कि जब भी आपको नेक्स्ट अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले कि हम वहाँ पर कैसे खेलें और अपना बेस्ट दें। और आज जब हम फाइनली ट्रॉफी जीत कर आए हैं, तो उनके साथ बहुत अच्छा लगा बात करके।
हाँ बताइए श्रुति जी।
हम जब 2017 में आए थे, ट्रॉफी नहीं लेके आए थे, बट मुझे याद है हमने एक क्वेश्चन पूछा था एक्सपेक्टेशंस के बारे में आपको, और वो आंसर अभी भी और वो चीज़ काफ़ी हेल्प करी थी हम लोगों को कि नेक्स्ट 6-7 ईयर्स हमने बहुत कोशिश करी, बट काफ़ी वर्ल्ड कप्स हार्ट ब्रेक्स हुए हमारे, बट ये वर्ल्ड कप फाइनली आई थिंक डेस्टिनी थी कि इंडिया में ही पहला वर्ल्ड कप आएगा विमेंस का। बट आई मीन आप हमेशा से सबके इंस्पिरेशन ही रहे, और स्पेशली आई मीन हर फील्ड में जिस तरह से लड़कियां अभी आई मीन हर फील्ड में सब जगह हमको सिर्फ लड़कियां दिख रही है, जहाँ पे भी वो इसरो का लॉन्च हुआ या जो भी हो, तो वो सब इंस्पिरेशन ही और मोटिवेशन है हमारे लिए कि हम और भी अच्छा काम कर पाए और लड़कियों को मोटिवेट कर पाए।
ये तो पूरा देश देख रहा है और गर्व कर रहा है। मैं तो आप लोगों को सुनना चाहता हूँ आपके अनुभव।
सर आई थिंक सबसे बेस्ट बात ये कैंपेन की ये थी कि कोई भी प्लेयर घर जाके उनकी स्टोरीज बताएगा कि किसी का भी कंट्रीब्यूशन कम नहीं था। लास्ट टाइम उन्होंने एक्सपेक्टेशंस कैसे डील करनी है उसके ऊपर बोला था, वो आंसर मेरे दिमाग में हमेशा रहा, और जिस तरह से वो काम और कंपोज रहते वो भी काफ़ी इंस्पायरिंग चीज़ है।
आई थिंक जब हम वो 3 मैच हारे, I think a team is actually defined by not how many times you win, but how you can pick yourself up after a fall. And I feel that this team has done that the best. And that's why this team is a champion team. And the other thing that I would say about this team, sir, कि जो ये unity था ये team में, I think this is the best I've seen. Because जब whenever anyone was doing well, सभी खुश हो जा रहे थे, सभी तालियां मार रहे थे, एज इफ उन लोग खुद ने वो जाके वो स्कोर किया या विकेट्स लिए। और वेन एवर समवन वॉज डाउन, देयर वाज ऑलवेज समवन जाके अपना हाथ उनके शोल्डर पे डाल रहे थे और बोल रहे कोई बात नहीं, तू नेक्स्ट मैच में करेगी। एंड आई थिंक दैट डिफाइंड द टीम।
मैं जेमी के साथ सहमति देती हूँ कि हम लोगों ने यही डिसाइड किया था कि सबकी सक्सेस में तो सब साथ होते हैं, लेकिन जब किसी का डाउनफॉल चलता है तो उस टाइम और भी ज़्यादा साथ देना ज़रूरी है। तो हमने एज अ टीम, एज अ यूनिट वही डिसाइड किया था कि कुछ भी हो जाए हम लोग एक दूसरे का साथ नहीं छोड़ेंगे और हमेशा एक दूसरे को ऊपर ही रखेंगे। तो आई थिंक ये बेस्ट था हमारी टीम का।
हरमंदी हमेशा बोलती है कि सब हंसते रहो, तो हमारा था कि अगर कोई थोड़ा सा भी अगर कोई ऐसा नर्वस बैठा है तो हमारा था कि सब हंसते रहो, तो एक दूसरे को हंसते हुए